Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, we're gonna strap on those jetpacks and head to the galaxy far, far away of, Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 2.
Oh, yeah.
We've got a whole stack of articles, production notes from the set, even some script breakdowns.
Nice.
Really to kind of give you a peek behind the curtain of how this cosmic adventure all came together.
What's exciting about this deep dive is we're going beyond just like a typical review of the film.
Right.
We're going to uncover how they use music to tell the story, the blend of practical effects and CGI to create those mind-blowing visuals.
Yeah.
And of course, how they crafted these characters. They feel less like superheroes and more like, that slightly chaotic family
Yeah.
we all secretly wish we had.
Exactly. So to kick things off, do you remember when Guardians 2 first hit theaters?
Oh, yeah.
Audiences went absolutely crazy for it. I mean, a cinema score, 82% on Rotten Tomatoes.
It's huge, yeah.
People loved it. But, some critics weren't as enthusiastic, right? They felt like maybe it was a little overstuffed with special effects, maybe leaned a little too heavily on that nostalgic 70s soundtrack.
Yeah, it's interesting how that soundtrack sparks such a debate, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a core part of the Guardians' identity now.
For sure.
But, some felt like it didn't quite live up to the magic of the first film's mix. Others, though, felt those 70s tunes were spot on.
Yeah. Okay, so before we get too deep into the music, let's sort of take a step back and go behind the scenes for a minute. Get this, the working title for Volume 2 was Level Up. Level Up.
And that's not just a catchy title, when you think about it. Level Up perfectly foreshadows how each character faces these challenges that force them to grow.
Yeah.
Not just in terms of their abilities, but, emotionally as well.
Right.
It's really kind of baked into that title.
And speaking of leveling up, this production was massive.
Yeah.
I mean, they used all 18 stages. Wow.
At Pinewood Atlanta Studios. Bigger sets, more elaborate environments. We're talking a whole galaxy of spaceships compared to the first film.
Right, and despite all the CGI wizardry you see on screen, director James Gunn was really committed to using practical effects.
Oh, interesting.
Whenever possible. Now, some might argue that mixing those two styles, right, could make the visuals feel inconsistent. What do you think about that?
That's a good point. I mean, it's a delicate balance, right? But I think Gunn really believed that grounding those fantastical elements with some real-world textures, would make the visuals ultimately more impactful. It's like he wanted to strike this balance between the awe-inspiring and the believable.
Yeah, and when you think about the sheer volume of visual effects, over 2,000 CGI shots with multiple teams working across different time zones, I mean,
wow.
Achieving that balance is incredibly impressive.
Absolutely. And don't forget, this was 2017, right?
Yeah. The technology wasn't quite as advanced as it is today. I mean, the way they brought characters like Rocket and Baby Groot to life, it's mind-boggling.
Absolutely. And they weren't just satisfied with what they achieved in the first film. I mean, they really focused on making Rocket and Baby Groot even more realistic.
Yeah.
More expressive. For example, look at the way Rocket's fur reacts to light in this film. It's
incredible.
Incredibly detailed. I mean, you can practically feel the texture.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing.
Now, to kind of map out those complex action sequences and really fine-tune the film's look, they used a technique called previs.
Previs, yeah.
Which is essentially like creating a digital storyboard.
It's a fascinating tool. Previs allows filmmakers to essentially create a rough draft of the entire movie inside a computer. Experimenting with camera angles, pacing, even visual effects before they ever set foot on set.
Oh, wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So all of this incredible production effort went into telling a story that's, bigger than the first film, but also in a lot of ways more personal, right? We've got Peter Quill on this quest to find his long-lost father, Ego.
Right.
But that's not the only story that's kind of unfolding here, is it?
No. We also follow Rocket and Yondu on their own unique path, a story that ultimately intertwines with Quill's.
Yeah.
And woven through both of these narratives is this central theme of family.
And not just any family, right?
Right.
Guardians 2 really explores this idea of found family and what that means.
Exactly. It's the idea that, the people we choose to be with, the ones who choose us, can be just as strong a family, maybe even stronger than those we're related to.
Right.
And that concept is at the heart of everything that unfolds in this film.
Yeah. I'm excited to dive into that.
And it's really fascinating how Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 2 takes this concept of found family and weaves it into these incredibly personal journeys, right, for each character. We see Peter, grapple with his identity, trying to understand where he belongs in the universe, while he's searching for his father, this celestial being named Ego.
It's a really powerful setup, right? I mean, you've got this godlike figure who could potentially answer all of Peter's questions about his past, his powers, all of that.
Right. Exactly.
But as the story unfolds, we realize that, bloodlines don't necessarily equal family.
Exactly. And that's where Yondu's character arc becomes so crucial to the film's emotional core, right? We first met him in the original Guardians as this gruff, almost antagonistic figure.
Right.
But in Volume 2, we see this different side of him.
Yeah, he's still rough around the edges, He's still prone to a bit of questionable decision-making.
For sure.
But there's this underlying sense of loyalty, of protectiveness towards Peter that we didn't see before.
Remember that scene where Yondu tells Rocket, he may have been your father, boy, but he wasn't your daddy.
Oh, yeah.
It's a gut-wrenching moment that completely reframes their relationship.
Yeah.
And ultimately, Yondu makes the ultimate sacrifice for Peter, proving that sometimes the people we least expect can become the family we need most.
Oh, it's a scene that gets me every time.
Oh, it's so good.
Really speaks to that idea that family isn't just about who we're related to, but who chooses to be there for us, who loves and supports us, even if they don't always show it in conventional ways.
Right. And that theme of belonging, of finding your place, it resonates throughout the film.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Gamora and Nebula, their complex sisterhood, the rivalry and resentment stemming from their shared trauma under Thanos.
Right, and then there's Drax, grappling with the loss of his own family, searching for purpose and connection, and Rocket, constantly pushing people away, struggling to trust and let others in because of his own painful past.
Yeah, it's remarkable how Guardians 2 manages to juggle all of these, deeply personal stories, while also delivering the action-packed spectacle that audiences expect from these films. It's a testament to James Gunn's skill as a storyteller.
Oh, yeah.
His ability to balance humor and heart, to make us laugh 1 minute and then tear up the next.
Oh, absolutely. It's that authenticity, that emotional honesty, that elevates the film beyond your typical superhero fare.
Right.
And speaking of authenticity, we have to circle back to the music.
The music, yeah.
Earlier, we touched on how some critics felt the soundtrack in Volume 2 didn't quite reach the same heights as the first film.
Yeah, and I can see that perspective, you know? Yeah. The first film's soundtrack felt like a revelation, this perfectly curated mix of unexpected tracks that somehow fit together seamlessly.
Right.
But in Volume 2, Gunn said he deliberately went for a slightly different approach.
Interesting.
Yeah, he wanted to evoke a sense of semi-familiarity.
Okay.
A blend of those big 70s hits with some deeper cuts, songs that might not be instantly recognizable, but would still transport the audience back to that era.
I see. And I think that choice reflects Peter Quill's journey in this film, right? I mean, he's trying to piece together his past, understand his identity, and those familiar sounds, those echoes of his childhood, provide a sense of comfort, of grounding amidst all the chaos.
Exactly, Remember that scene where his Walkman gets smashed?
Oh, yeah.
It's symbolic, isn't it?
Yeah.
That physical connection to his past is gone.
Right.
And he has to grapple with that loss while trying to figure out who he is in this, vast, strange universe.
And what does he get as a replacement?
A Zune.
A Zune.
It's such a, quirky, unexpected detail. But it speaks to...
Right. Peter's stuck in the 70s bubble, but the world has moved on.
Right.
He's forced to confront that, to adapt.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the audience's enthusiastic response, the more mixed critical reception, the behind-the-scenes magic that brought this world to life. But what about the lasting impact of Volume 2? How did it shape the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Well, in many ways, it paved the way for the Guardians to become key players in those massive MCU events, Infinity War and Endgame.
It's amazing to think how they went from this, ragtag group of misfits to these pivotal figures in the fight against Thanos.
Right. Their journey in Volume 2 helped scissify their place in the larger narrative, They became more than just a quirky side story.
Yeah.
They became essential to the emotional core of those films.
Think about it. Those universe-ending stakes in Infinity War and Endgame wouldn't have hit as hard without the counterbalance of the Guardians' humor, their heart, their willingness to fight for each other, even against impossible odds.
They brought that crucial human element to those, like massive cosmic battles.
Right.
They reminded us that even in the face of annihilation, it's the connections we forge, the love we share, that truly matters.
It's a powerful message that really transcends the superhero genre, It speaks to the power of family, of finding your tribe, of choosing to be there for each other, no matter what challenges life throws your way.
And that message resonated deeply with audiences. It's one of the reasons why Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 2 became such a global phenomenon.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a superhero film. It was a story about family, about belonging, about finding your place in the universe.
And now we turn to the critical lens.
Oh, yes.
Did Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 2 live up to the hype? Did it surpass its predecessor? Let's dive into the final part of our deep dive and explore those questions.
Okay, so we've explored the making of Guardians 2, we've dug into the story, those powerful themes of family, and even debated the soundtrack a little bit.
Right.
But now I think we're putting on our critic hats.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to take a closer look at the film's overall impact, how it all comes together.
Right.
Did it live up to the hype?
Yeah, well, that's where things get interesting,
Yeah.
Some critics felt that while Vol. 2 is, visually spectacular and stunning.
Right. All that spectacle might have overshadowed the narrative at times. They argued that maybe, just maybe, the sheer volume of special effects detracted from the emotional core of the story.
Yeah, I can see that.
Right.
I mean, when you have spaceships exploding left and right and planets literally coming to life,
right.
It's easy to get caught up in the spectacle.
Exactly. And some critics also felt that the soundtrack, well, certainly catchy, right, lacked the surprise factor of the first film's iconic mix.
Yeah.
It felt maybe a bit safer, a bit more predictable, maybe even leaning a little too hard on nostalgia.
Yeah, the first film soundtrack really had this element of discovery. It was like unearthing this hidden treasure trove of 70s gems.
Right.
And for some, I think, the sequel soundtrack didn't quite reach that same level of unexpected delight.
But here's the thing. Even those who had, some criticisms acknowledged the film's undeniable strengths, right?
Right.
I mean, the character development, the emotional depth, the exploration of family, these resonated with audiences and critics alike.
And I think that's what ultimately makes Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 2 such a compelling film, right?
Exactly.
It's a visual feast, no doubt, and the music is undeniably fun.
Right.
But it's those characters, their relationships, their journeys that stay with you long after the credits roll.
Think about it. These are intergalactic outlaws, thieves, assassins.
Yeah.
But we connect with them on a deeply human level. We see ourselves in their struggles, their flaws, their moments of triumph.
Sure.
We laugh with them. We cry with them.
We root for them.
Yeah.
It's a film that makes you want to, blast 70s music and hug your found family, space crazy as they may be.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, I think that's really the mark of a truly successful film, right?
Totally.
It entertains. It provokes thought, and it sticks with you.
Absolutely.
It sparks those conversations, those deep dives that make us appreciate the power of storytelling and its ability to connect with us on a human level.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up this deep dive into Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 2, we're left with a question for you to ponder.
Okay.
The film explores this idea of found family, those who choose to be there for each other, to love and support each other, even when things get messy. What does that concept mean to you? How has it shaped your own life and the connections you formed along the way?
Yeah. It's a powerful question.
It is.
We encourage you to explore the sources we've discussed, to dive even deeper into the world of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and really consider its message.
Yeah.
I think the beauty of a film like this lies not just in its entertainment value, but in its ability to spark these meaningful conversations, these reflections on our own lives and relationships.
Keep exploring, keep questioning.
Keep diving deep.
Keep diving deep.
Until next time, fellow deep divers.